On today's episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-Commerce Brand, my mind absolutely rocked by Adi GULIA. What an amazing conversation that him and I had. He works with people kind of looking to go from that sort of 10 million mark up to that $100 million mark. And in e-commerce, he's been around in e-commerce for a long time, but just an absolutely incredible conversation. Kind of one of those ones that I'm exhausted after because my mind had to work so hard to change some habits that I have. And he really talked about going from, being obsessed with the how-tos into actually changing your mindset to really be able to grow into a huge company and into the sort of potential that you have. So really amazing conversation. I think you guys are really going to like this one. Today's episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-Commerce Brand is brought to you by Mindful Marketing. At Mindful Marketing, they use ads to get you off using ads. Most e-commerce brands rely heavily on Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Twitter, and all the other paid platforms for the majority of their revenue. At Mindful Marketing, they use paid ads to help you build a community of loyal and repeat customers that will exist long after Facebook and Google do. In fact, Mindful Marketing wants to offer you a free e-commerce growth plan that they normally charge $500 for. A recent growth plan customer said, "Our ROAS tripled overnight after implementing their tactics. These guys are no joke at Mindful Marketing Co." So go to mindfulmarketing.co/grow to claim your free e-commerce growth plan today. Now on to today's episode. Hey guys, Jordan West here with another great interview. I am super excited to introduce my next guest. I'm here with Adi GULIA, all the way from Vancouver Island, not that far from where I live. Maybe on a clear day, I can almost see Vancouver Island from where I am. It is so nice to have you on the podcast. For people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'll get straight to it, Jordan. So I've been an e-commerce entrepreneur since 2014. And in the course of the 7 years that I have been building e-commerce businesses, I grew brands from, scratch to the 8-figure mark. So that became kind of my specialty in terms of what to do to be able to go from $0 to $1 million in, let's say, 8 months. And then from $1 million to 10 million in another year or so. So that was what I had been mostly doing as far as my career. In that process, one of the things that I discovered was what I really enjoy as as my art form or my craft, and something that I am dedicating my life to is the understanding of how our mind works. Because in meeting the people that I met in e-commerce, there were some e-commerce entrepreneurs that were doing $1 million. There were some that were doing 5 million. There were some that did 30 million. I have a couple of friends who are doing in excess of 200 million a year. And I guess in recognizing the patterns behind what is it that leads somebody to the $200 million mark, that was all along to me the most interesting puzzle to be solved. I didn't really have my heart in scaling up my e-commerce business as much as I did in understanding where performance lies. And the performance was a result of certain causes that were taking place in these companies. And so today I'm at a point where I'm still running the business part-time. I have a capable team that's mostly handling the day-to-day, and I, chime in on a, weekly basis. But most of my time is now spent exploring the work that I do with some clients that I have. And that is just to do with where performance really comes from. How does somebody who gets to 200 million get to the 200 million, whereas somebody who struggles with getting to 10 million stays at 10 million? And those kind of things that I am mostly exploring.
Interesting. I've got a lot of questions on that, right? I mean, this is the perfect podcast. You got on the right podcast, Secrets to Scaling, right? I'm super interested to hear some of these mindset shifts. So what's a big difference in mindset that you see between somebody making, at the $1 million mark and kind of struggling in there versus those $200 million companies? What is that big difference?
It would be the same as trying to explain to somebody who's, let's say, in high school and they're 14 years old and they say, I want to make $1 million. And you as an entrepreneur already have a $5 million company. you know that that person is not understanding certain things that you understand. You know that
Absolutely.
you understand things to do with building a team, things to do with, hey, I have to put in the work. This is the effort that goes into it. The
Yeah.
person, on the other hand, when they're asking, how do I make $1 million, and they're 14 years old, they're going back to, not focusing on building of the business. They're going back to their regular life. So it's a function of what is understood versus what's not. And I guess, long story short, the person running a $100 million company understands certain things that a person running a $5 million company who has not scaled past 5 or 10 million doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And in kind of exploring what goes behind a $100 million company, it's very interesting, because when I am hanging out with the guy that I know, who alluded to him earlier, his company this year is probably going to do around 400 million in sales. He's just, an average e-commerce dude. Like, I'd say he's about 32 years old, has been doing e-commerce for 12 years. And, it's a pretty sizable business. The difference,
I would say so.
right. The real difference, which almost nobody's going to see, is the vision. There's a lot of hype about vision and, how to have a vision, etc. But the kind of vision these guys have is so different from the vision that an ordinary $1 million, $10 million business owner might have. When I'm hanging out with the person who's running the $300-400 million company, the questions that they are asking, the things that they're talking about, are wildly different than what is being asked in the other room with the $5 million sellers. The questions being asked in the $5 million seller room are along the lines of, how do we increase sales? What do we do with social media? Like, what's the new branding technique, hack, those kinds of things, which is normal questions. When I'm sitting in the room with the $400 million seller, it's an entirely different mindset, where this person's eye, for example, is already on $1 billion. And anything that's getting in the way of that is almost an insult to him. When I asked him, how long do you think it's going to take you to get to $1 billion in sales? Is it like 3 or 4 years away? He got insulted that you didn't say it's going to be in a year and a half. So it's like a night and day difference.
Yeah.
The level of confidence is just profoundly different. And that, I would say, is probably the most important thing and the most important difference. And I think that's what's mostly misunderstood. I had somebody who came to me and he asked me, I'm building an Amazon brand and I need, I want you to tell me how to get to $1 million in sales. And he asked me from the point of view of what I would be doing if I was starting from scratch, because this individual started starting from scratch. Now, and a normal, my response to him was, I'll tell you what I would do, but I know you won't do it. And, he was like, why are you saying that? And I said, okay, this is what I would do. If I was starting out in your shoes and I had no e-commerce background, I would go hire 3 people and be paying each of them anywhere between $50,000 to $75,000 a year in their core expertise. Like, one would know Amazon ranking inside out. One would understand external traffic inside out. One would understand supply chain and product development inside out.
Do you think those are your 3 core first people that you'd hire in this type of business?
If somebody wants to get to $1 million, it's a necessity almost. You need to have product, you need to have supply chain, and you need to be able to market it. So those 3 people may cost me, let's say, at most $200,000.
Yeah.
When I told this person, go do that, go hire 3 top individuals in their fields and go get them to implement your plan, they'll get you to $1 million in no time. His first response was, I can't do that. I need to first see some traction. Like, I need to be able to demonstrate this product is actually going to work.
Yeah.
And then my response to him was, the difference here is I know my plan is going to work and you have a doubt in your plan. You don't believe that you can hire these 3 individuals and get to $1 million within 6 months. I will hire them because I know I will get the million in 6 months. That same way, the person who's running $400 million has absolutely no doubt in his mind that he'll get there. So the question is not how do you get to $1 million in a period, let's say a year. The question is, why is it that I am not confident in hiring the 3 people who I know would bring me the $1 million? And in exploring that, allowed him to take the steps to hire at least the first person. He didn't hire the 3 people, but he at least went out and hired the first person, because that doubt as to why he can't hire somebody and as to why he is okay to waste time proving his concept. Once that doubt was removed, the actions kind of just automatically followed.
So do you think with the people that are at that next level that they're taking more risks or more just calculated leaps?
I don't think they view it from the point of view of risk or leaps. I think it is a mindset of this is just where I'm going to end up.
Yeah, so they have that. They know that this is where they're headed, and they know the steps that they need to take to get there, or are they still figuring that out?
It's because they know they're going to get there that the steps kind of show up.
Yeah, totally. Because there's different things that you do when you're at different stages of businesses, right? Yeah, which we totally understand, where those are. We don't have any.
For example, let's say one of the people in your audience has a $10 million business.
Yeah.
If somebody was to ask him about building a $10 million business in the future, he would have gained the necessary experience to get to 10 million, and he would have no problem answering the questions. But if somebody was to ask him, how do you get to 100 million? He can't answer that question.
Yeah, it's a different ballgame.
And the only reason he can't answer that question is because there are things inside of his mind that are preventing him from getting there. It's primarily doubt. It's primarily thinking about it as risky. It's primarily thinking that it's a leap. And it's those things that kind of freeze him in his tracks, as opposed to the guy who leapfrogged to $400 million because there was nothing freezing him in his track.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about that kind of mindset, because I remember this is probably 2 or 3 years ago when I kind of made that shift of realizing what that can do when you actually change your mind about things and have a mindset. How do you help people see that? And how have you done that for yourself? Like having those actual mindset shifts around a doubt specifically?
It really comes down to uncovering what's in the way. That it's as simple as that. Because most people are so busy trying to find out what to do to grow, right? Somebody's got a $10 million business. They're so consumed day and night with the question of how do I grow it? Nobody has ever stopped to ask the question, what's in my way? Because if they were to sit down and ask this question, invariably, it'll lead them inside into a doubt or an anxiety or a fear, which is blocking them. And no amount of how to and going to a conference and trying to learn about it will lead to the explosive growth that they're looking for. How-tos will only lead to incremental growth. If you're doing 10 million today, next year you might end up with 14 or 15. But if you're doing 10 today and you must get to 100 next year, there are companies that do that. These companies that end up being called, unicorns, there's a reason they get there. It's not luck. It's because the people internally have a knowing of what is necessary to get there.
So what's the difference between the how-to and what you're talking about? I'd love to know. And this is personally, I'm not even asking as just an interviewer. What is that difference between just how-tos and knowing?
Jordan, it really comes down to the level of control somebody has over their mind. Because think about it like this. You have a wife and kids?
I do.
Okay, let's say you're grocery shopping, right? And you're in the line and it's going to be another 5 or 10 minutes before you're going to pay and check out. If I give you a call and I tell you, hey, Jordan, at home, your wife and kids are there and there's a fire at home, you're not going to call anybody to ask, how do I save them? You will just get there and do what is necessary to save them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the question of how to is only asked when somebody's not convinced that they're going to get there.
That is a really good example. That is a great example.
Well, it's the only example that will work, to be honest with you, because that's personal to you.
Yeah.
Any intellectual examples don't really hit home because the mind leaves them in the intellectual realm. So in order for us to understand why am I not where I want to be, we have to first understand why is it that I don't want that as bad as I would want to save my kids.
Interesting. I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody who comes on this podcast. What is your secret to scaling?
I'll be honest with you. I have been pretty unsatisfied with what I've scaled. I've kind of dangled around the 8-figure level myself. But I can tell you one thing. What I'm about to do is going to scale way beyond that. And so it would be a little premature for me to say what's my secret to scaling, because I already feel like, 20, 30 million is not a scale really. But if you want to talk about what led for the 20, 30 million to happen, we could talk about that. But I don't feel like I'm at a point where I could say, hey, this is the secret to scaling, because I feel like I should talk to you when I'm already there.
What's interesting is that to a lot of people, right, who listen to this podcast, who are, kind of kissing that, $1 million mark and wanting to get higher and higher, 20 to 30 million is scaled to them, right? That is big scaling to them.
Yeah. So, and to some people, $500,000 is scale.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So I could talk about some secrets to scale. And honestly, I feel like those are not secrets that are discussed anywhere because everybody's looking for the how to. Everybody's looking how to scale, right? What I'm
Yeah.
looking at is what's blocking me from scaling. And it's all inside my mind. It's some sort of a fear, aversion to risk, anxiety, not being obsessed over the goal, but being more so obsessed over the reward from the goal. That is the self-image that's going to come from accomplishing it, the social media posting that's going to happen all around it. The guy who's at $400 million doesn't post anything on social media because he's so busy building it. So those are the soft things that are the secret to scaling, not so much what's the best email marketing technique, what's the best social media strategy. Because the people who are at the top of a $400 or $500 million company do not ask how to as often as the people who are at 10 million. So I think secrets to scaling lie all within the mind, in exploring our own mind, running our own business, and seeing, hey, if I'm at 5 million or 10 million today, and I'm not at 100 million next year, why is it that I will not be at 100 million next year? Because I can guarantee you there's a path to getting to 100 million from 10 million in 1 year. And it's reserved for only those who are willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Yeah. And the reason it's reserved for them is because they'll go out and get funded for it. They'll go out and hire whoever they need to hire, who's going to help them get there. So a lot of the things that are necessary to scale are a result of us not realizing what is holding us back. And that's where all the magic lies, I think.
It's great. I love the way that you look at things, and it's such a breath of fresh air as far as just going from tactics beyond even strategy, right, and then into the mind.
Sorry, I hate cutting you off because I feel like you're a good person to talk to here. But I things pop into my head as you're talking, and I just feel like I need to add to that.
Absolutely.
Imagine this: who's a rock star entrepreneur that everybody just looks up to? Elon Musk probably comes to mind, right?
Sure, yeah.
If Elon Musk took aside 3 months of his time running SpaceX and Tesla, and he said, hey guys, I'm going to go write down a book on how to become Elon Musk. I'm going to write down a how-to guide on how to become Elon Musk. Millions of people are going to read that. You will read that. I will read that. Everybody will read that. How many Elon Musks do you think we'll end up with? Like actually?
From the book? Yeah. Well, one, him.
But the point is, Elon Musk didn't go out asking anybody how to build Tesla or how to build SpaceX. Elon Musk had a knowing internally that he was going to build this. Yeah. And he got there. Whoever is asking a how to scale, doesn't understand that it's the how to that's the blockage. The secret lies in finding out what's blocking me from getting to the 100 million, not in trying to find the how to get to 100 million, because the how to doesn't really exist, because every business is different. Every entrepreneur is different. Everybody's circumstances and how they react to certain things that come up are all so different that copying anybody else's how-to is just an effective path, which is why we see most businesses getting stuck at 10 million and not scaling past that.
That's super interesting. I mean, I think of like, I've been, reading a few biographies lately. I read the Phil Knight one, I read the Lululemon one, and you wouldn't want to take either one of those paths that they took, right? Like cool, like Chip Wilson, awesome local guy, great to see what he's done, but like, I wouldn't take that path, right? And that's not a great how-to, but it's kind of interesting to see how their minds work and how their minds worked through, scaling companies up to kind of the size that they did.
Yeah. Jordan, the problem is everybody's so interested in seeing how somebody else's mind works that they lose sight of the fact that their own mind exists and there's something happening inside of their own mind, which needs to be understood first and foremost. So Chip Wilson already has the requisite internal mindset to arrive at $1 billion company. Yeah. And reading about Chip Wilson isn't going to bring about that requisite mindset for us. No matter what he writes, he may write to give us motivation and inspiration. We'll walk away from that book really sitting at the exact same revenue figure. We're not going to all of a sudden next day go in doing things that Chip Wilson was doing on his day-to-day activities. Mm-hmm. So I think these guys are fine to read about, but we lose sight of the fact that we are ourselves capable of becoming a legend. And in trying to copy the legend, we lose sight of the fact that none of these legends really copied anybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like, do you want to be a legend or not? Is the question that the person should ask themselves.
Yeah. Great question. I think I'm going to end the interview right there because that was really, really good. Where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
I mostly just do private consultation, and So I think I'm mostly just like so focused on my day-to-day thing with my clients, because if somebody's at 10 and they just have to get to 100, like that's the guy I want to talk to.
Gotcha.
So if somebody wants to like reach out and ask questions, they can email at addy@graceandstella.com. So that's just the skincare company that I have ran for the last few years, graceandstella.com. And it's just my first name before it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having on here. This is a breath of fresh air. Thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, nice chatting with you, and have a nice, lovely life back in BC, wherever you are.
I will.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, we hope you really enjoyed today's episode. Can we ask you a favor? Hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and share this with your e-commerce store owner friends. We also love reviews. So if you could leave us one on Apple Podcasts, that would mean so much to us. Just a reminder from the beginning of the episode, our team at Mindful Marketing is rapidly growing, and we have room for one new brand a month that's looking to grow. Now, before you apply, please note that we're only looking for businesses that are ready to scale and have the capacity and the inventory for a large influx of orders. This opportunity is only available to brands that have had at least 1 year of sales history and are ready for explosive growth. If this sounds like you, go to mindfulmarketing.co/apply and start the process today. I hope you guys have a great week.